Hello, this is Jamie Mitchell, and we're back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Libertarians boo Donald Trump because he isn't libertarian from Reason.com by Donald Key. And I think I may have talked about this one in the last episode, but I definitely would agree that Donald Trump isn't libertarian, and his first term in office really shows that, I would say. And hopefully, if he does get in office again, he does get more libertarian and fulfills his promise to put a libertarian in his cabinet. But a promise from a politician, that's as good as a stab in the back from them, if you ask me. And that's my fault on that issue. Then we have Biden's re-election strategy is to get more people to smoke marijuana. GOP senator claims from MarijuanaMoment.net by Far and Chimney. And I don't think that's true, but yeah, I think Biden, he probably should have at least decriminalized marijuana by now on a federal level, but I don't think he's done that yet. So yeah, I think it's gonna happen, but yeah, I definitely think Biden's too slow when it comes to marijuana. That being said, I do think marijuana isn't the best substance for you, but if you want to do it, I think you should be able to. Just like I think you should be able to do whatever other drugs you want, as long as it's consensual and you want to put it in your body. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Now we have what president most libertarians vote for from Coolgy123, and that's a poll they posted, and it's Republicans, Democrats, or smaller party, and it looks like smaller party won pretty divisively. And I would agree that most libertarians vote for smaller party since the Republicans aren't that libertarian at all, and increasingly they don't even try and hide it anymore. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have at Texas GOP convention, Republicans call for spiritual warfare from TexasTribune.org by Clorox. And I said, yeah, that's just increasingly the state has become the church, especially for the Republicans. And you increasingly see that when people treat voting and politics like it's a religion these days in both major parties and some of the smaller parties as well, I would say, to an extent. And increasingly, I don't think that's not how you should look at the state. You should look at the state as just forced collectivism. Religion, I would say, is more voluntary collectivism. And that's why I think we need to get rid of the state. And if you want to do it, join a church or a voluntary state, I think you should be able to. But I don't think spiritual warfare is the correct response when it comes to politics, and that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have revealed Israeli spy chief threatened ICC prosecutor over war crimes in court inquiry. Mossad director Yossi Cohen personally involved in secret plot to pressure Fatal Bensouda to drop Palestine investigation, sources say from TheGuardian.com. And yeah, I definitely would agree that that's not good, and it definitely, I think Mossad might be one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. And most people look over that. I heard they might involve a lot of the Epstein stuff, and yeah, I definitely wouldn't trust anything coming out of Mossad or Israel, and that's my thoughts on that issue. By Israel, I mean mostly just the Israeli government, though. I'm sure a lot of the Israeli citizens don't really care for their government, even just like a lot of the U.S. citizens don't. Then we have California's $20 fast food minimum wage goal is already having disastrous unintended consequences from Yahoo Finance, and that's from Ninja Lover. And they added Frederick Bastiat in his work, That Which Is Seen and That Which Is Not Seen, points out that there is always seen and unseen consequences which government force impacts economic decisions. Almost always, he wrote, the immediate consequences favorable, the ultimate consequences are fatal. And that Stossel, being his usual bombastic and annoying self, be warned, but I'm a sucker for a good Bastiat, quote. And it's an article from John Stossel. It's interesting. Ninja Lover said recently that he was a national treasure for idiots. Now he's sharing an article from him. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, I definitely do agree that, employers shouldn't be forced to pay a minimum wage if they don't want to. And, instead of being forced to pay a minimum wage, you should be asking, why isn't the dollar worth more as it is? Instead of why should these companies be forced to pay a certain amount of dollars? And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Justice Alito's upside-down flag claim dismantled by police. Neighbors report the justice's wife allegedly spattered her neighbor's car and traded insults, prompting the young couple to call the police. from RollingStone.com by Swampy Yankee Dan. And I mean, I definitely think this is just a media narrative. Oh, they're trying to turn Sammy Alito into a Clarence Thomas type. And, that's increasingly, I think he should be able to fly whatever flags he wants on his property. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Atlanta police survey people opposing Cop City. There's this constant stalking feeling. Residents wonder what legal protections are available as police monitor them all hours, blaring signs and shining lights from TheGuardian.com by Swamp Yankee Dan. I definitely don't think that's good. That's why I think, we should rather have individuals police law rather than a centralized collective police force, because the centralized collective police force is going to be inherently authoritarian, I would say. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have, the U.S. can stop sending weapons to them from Ragnarok XP, and that's the screenshot they shared from geopoliticaleconomy.com. U.S. Congress warns, if ICC tries Israeli war crimes, America will be next. And I agree, they should do that. They should try both of them for war crimes, I would say. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Increasingly, you have even the quote-unquote reasonable, rational Republicans like Nikki Haley signing, writing finish them on bombs, on IDF bombs, and even Elizabeth Warren says, oh, we shouldn't be bombing them, but she votes for the bombing. And, that just goes to show you that the Republicrats, they're really all should probably be in prison right now. Like, except for maybe a few unknowable exceptions, like maybe Thomas Massie or Rand Paul, but the rest of them, they should be in prison for their constant support of bombing and drone striking innocent civilians. And that's my thought on that issue. And we have mother of January 6th officer Michael Fanone swatted after he called Trump authoritarian from NBCNews.com by Swamp Yankee Dan. And, I definitely don't think that's good. And, but that's why I definitely don't think we should, be having SWAT teams and all that. And especially, when the force of the state can just come at you in any second on false pretenses. That's how the state ultimately has too much power. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then I'm seeing a lot of misinformation around Chase Oliver and his stances. Here's his actual platform from VoteChaseOliver.com by Dr. Who 07. And, I definitely would agree that, Chase Oliver, he's a bit on the woke side for me, especially when it comes to LGBTQ issues and how he supports, hormones for kids and kids that going to very sexualized drag shows. That being said, I at least appreciate how he's pro-Second Amendment and anti-funding for Israel and Ukraine. So at least that's something that I'll probably vote for him on those reasons. Even if it might be a little reluctantly, I would say. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have What Got You Into Libertarianism from Weekly Junket 5227. And they said, hello, while I'm not a total libertarian, I have respect for quite a few of them. I think what got me interested in the party is their strong support of the individual. For instance, they can be pro-Second Amendment like the GOP, however many of them will stand against police brutality and violating the rights of citizens. And I'd agree with that. I think one of the things that really got me into libertarianism was when I found a book from Ron Paul in a local park little library. And that's why I always heard good things about it, so I tried to try it out. And I think that's why I like libertarianism. You get to support the individual, do whatever you want for your own body, do as long as you're not hurting anyone else. I think that's a very libertarian ethos, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have at Fakertarians on Twitter. The chairwoman of the Libertarian Party is apparently inviting libertarians to be nice and vote for Donald Trump. And that's from a post from Legio X from the Fakertarians Twitter account. And I said, I didn't comment on that one because, I'm suspended currently. But, I personally think if you want to support Donald Trump and consider yourself a libertarian, I think you should be able to. Same with Joe Biden. With that being said, those two I think are inherently very statist, and it's important to remember that. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have New Hampshire's limits on teaching on race and gender are unconstitutional, Judge says, from Clorox, from NBCBoston.com. And they added time to drag New Hampshire into the personal liberties era. And I think, you should be able to teach whatever you want. But with that being said, I think, we should abolish centralized schooling. And, maybe we could have progressive schools that teach all the woke stuff, and maybe more conservative schools will teach all the MAGA stuff. And, that's why I think inherently everyone's going to always have some problems with what's being taught. And that's why, I think we should just kind of abolish the notion of education and just try and have kids learn for themselves, especially, which is easier to do now than ever thanks to the internet. And that's my thoughts on that issue. But send your kids to school wherever you want to. I don't want to forcibly abolish all schools. I would say because ultimately I think each parent should know how to raise their kids. Then we have at the NIH, a scandal grows around an official's evasion of public records law from Lemon Limelight, and they said the nation records on a recent failure of an open government. At the NIH, a scandal grows around the official's evasion of public records law. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, which was conducting an investigation into the origin of SARS-CoV-2, sent a letter to the National Institute of Health today suggesting that there has been a conspiracy at the highest levels in the NIH and NIH to avoid public transparency regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. And then they go on about that, and I think it's just kind of like Hillary Clinton. Now she deleted all her private emails. It seems like there's tons of emails that they just kind of hid or falsified, and just goes to show you that those in positions of power can lie however they want, and ultimately are never held accountable for it. But it looks like this time they may actually be held accountable for it. But I'm not getting my hopes too high because ultimately the media will probably just move on to something else, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have agree with Cancun Cruz, can't be Libertarian Team Red, and that's from Donald Key, and that's a tweet from Ted Cruz, who's tweeted, the disastrous Libertarian mentioned Bruce was have long suspected that there are plenty of party of crackpots who have no place in the modern GOP besides a handful of economic policies. Our values are diametrically opposed, and as far as I'm concerned, they can kick rocks. And I guess I would agree with that. I definitely do sympathize with the Republicans on some economic issues, but ultimately, a lot of social issues, I don't like how they want to force all the conservative agenda on people, just like how I don't like how the Democrats want to enforce all the progressive agenda on people, and that's my thought on that issue. Then we have Minnesota bans gay and trans panic defense, party line 3433 vote from AaronInTheMorning.com by Clorox, and I personally kind of think that goes against free speech. I think you should be able to use any defense you want, and that's my thoughts on that issue. I don't think you should be saying, "Oh, he scared me because he was gay or transgender." But ultimately, I think you should have the free speech to do so. Then we have Ohio Senate passes GOP-led Biden access bill without Democrat support from Ninja Lover from ABCNews.go.com, and they added Ohio Senate's Republicans only passed a bill to allow both Biden and to be on the general election ballot in November, also bar foreign contributions to ballot issue campaigns. And I guess that's good. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters who's on the ballot because the blue NPCs were just written in Joe Biden anyway. But I guess that's good. They'll have him on the ballot. I still don't think he's going to take Ohio though, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have LP's future from Dr. Who 07. They added, and they said, and this is a self-post they made. They said, imagine a world where McCarl and the LP sets all the convention Bush design sets back of Oliver 100%, where he gets to go on the debate stage with Trump and Biden and absolutely smoke them both. Instead, we're going tweets about from terror that support Trump going office talking about how we'll get that cabinet position. And I don't know how realistic it is to get Oliver on the debate stage, but I definitely do think I don't know how realistic it is to get that cabinet position either, so I guess I can kind of see both sides here. Ultimately, if you want to vote if you think Trump is lesser of two evils and want to vote for him on that pretext, I think you should be able to. Same with Biden, but ultimately, I don't think either of them are really going to change anything. As Biden said when he's first running for president in 2020, he said nothing will fundamentally change to a group of his private donors, and I think that's how you should look at politics. It's just who's ever in charge, the red party or the blue party. It doesn't really matter too much. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.